Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Ummah Radio. You are listening to the Aqeedah class with myself, Abu Mus'ab. 3 years ago, on the same date, 30th of December 2013, was the first time that this class, Aqeedatul Murshidah, was done on Ummah Radio. But the way the world works, that the more things change, the more things stay the same. So you may do a class and then the same old argument comes up, the same old ignorance of people who make claims about Aqeedah and stuff like this without having any knowledge. So therefore I decided to redo this kitab for a second time. Now the thing, this kitab Aqeedatul Murshidah is an Ash'ari Aqeedah. It's an Ash'ari textbook, let me put it this way. So already for many people, they have red flags coming up when they hear the word Ash'ari, but this I'd like to clarify as well tonight, inshallah. This is a very basic, very small kitab on Aqeedah. It does not delve into any depth. It does not go into any philosophical debates. It does not touch on any of those points over there, and it is something that it is the beliefs of the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Now, as we go through it, I'll explain where need be on certain points. But before we get to that point over there, because knowing that you have people who will listen in and will have their own preconceived notions, they have their own ideas of what they feel the Ash'ari Aqeedah is and stuff of this sort. So therefore it is necessary to give a little bit of an introduction before reaching the point. So firstly, the Ash'ari and Maatureedee Aqeedah along with the Athari Aqeedah forms the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and this is how it has been for more than 1,000 years. And the only time when this whole questionability of the Aqeedah of the Ash'aris and Maatureedis came about was when the Salafis popped up a couple of years ago. Prior to that, Ash'aris and Maatureedis were accepted as being part of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah throughout the ages, and that is why 90% of the ulama throughout the ages were Ash'ari and Maatureedee. Famous Ash'aris: Imam An-Nawawi rahimahullah, Imam Al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah, Imam Ibn Hajar Al-Asqalani rahimahullah. You can just name off the shining stars of Islam, and they were either Ash'ari or Maatureedee, and the others who were Athari. So that is how it had been for all the years. And there's not a person nowadays in this world who can make do without the kitabs of Imam Ibn Hajar Al-Asqalani and Imam An-Nawawi rahimahullah, amongst apart from all the various other ulama as well. Now, for some, they in their ignorance they'll come and say that no, these A'imma were not Ash'ari and Maatureedee, yet it is well known throughout the ages, everybody, all the scholars, they all had it without question that they are Ash'aris. Even the Salafis themselves, those who have some knowledge, will admit that yes, these ulama indeed they were Ash'ari, but then they go now to and make the claim that they had mistakes in their Aqeedah, as though these people of today, they are on the right path, and the great ulama of the past, they were corrupted people who did not know Aqeedah. So as a Jahil, you know what is right, and them as the ulama who you are taking your deen from, they didn't know what is right. But this, it stems, like I say, just out of pure ignorance. So firstly, when we talk about the Aqeedah of the Ash'aris and the Maatureedis, or what exactly is the Ash'ari and the Maatureedee Aqeedah, then firstly, before we get into anything, the Ash'ari and Maatureedee Aqeedah are of two types. They interpret it in two ways. You have the Ta'wil Ijmali and the Ta'wil Tafsili, and this is something I've spoken about in the past as well. Ta'wil Ijmali is, in other words, like the Athari Aqeedah, which simply means that you don't make any ta'wil. Ijmali would mean in like the concise, the abridged form. So when you say yad, you take it as yad, you don't interpret it as anything. Then you have, so therefore the ta'wil Ijmali type. So a person can call himself an Ash'ari or a Maatureedee, and he does not make ta'wil of a single one of the sifat or anything of the sort. So as far as you looking at this man here, you would call him an Athari, for example, but in fact he is following the Ash'ari Aqeedah. Now the Salafis as a whole tend to be ignorant of this point. So the minute they hear Ash'ari, then again, once more from this point, they did not study or know what the Ash'ari Aqeedah is, so they come to their own conclusions and make up claims out of ignorance, claiming that Ash'aris believe this, Ash'aris do this, Ash'aris do that, when in fact nobody does that at all. So anyway, so Ash'ari and Maturidi Aqeedah is of this Ijmali type, which would be without making ta'wil. Then you have the Tafsili, which is generally what people know when they refer to as the Ash'ari Aqeedah, where you would make ta'wil of the sifats. Now this is an important point to note, that why was this done? That's where the crux of the matter is. Why, like somebody posed a question saying that, why did they turn away from the Aqeedah of the Salaf and start making ta'wil? The reason for this is they never stepped away from the Aqeedah of the Salaf. They expounded on the Aqeedah of the Salaf. And I'll explain that in a moment. What happened was, originally in the time of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, Qul huwa Allahu ahad was sufficient Aqeedah for them. They did not need books and books and books, Kitabul Aqeedah, Kitabul Tawheed. They didn't need things of the sort. Everything was understood. But as Islam spread throughout the world and the Muslims started coming in contact with the various kuffar, it came with their philosophical beliefs and stuff like this here, and they influenced and infected the Muslims. And as a result, the Tajsim, the Mujassima, Mushabbiha, these type of beliefs started infiltrating amongst the Muslim community. And then as a result of that, Muslims were now obviously, how else you think the Mujassima of before, who made the claim that Allah has a body and all this sort of stuff, it came out because the Muslims had interaction with these sort of people over here. So the ulama, Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari rahimahullah, he brought about this not as some new Aqeedah, but rather to combat the corrupted beliefs that had infected the Muslims. So where the people had gone, like for example, if let's take the simple thing like Allah has a yad or Allah has a wajh and stuff of the sort here. So they were if anybody who knows anything, the kuffar, the Christians, they believe that if you read their writings now, then God is an old man with a long beard and long robes sitting on a chair in heaven. That is how they describe God, as being a human being shape. That is their beliefs. So these type of beliefs is what infected the Muslims. So when they came across wajh, yad, saq, and all these sort of sifat of this nature, they took it into that context. So when it said that Allah did this biyadihi and stuff like this here, then or rather, because of this philosophical beliefs which had infected them, they then understood it in this kafir context, that yad here means a physical hand, like a human being hand, this sort of thing. So to combat this, that is the one and only reason that the Ash'ari and the Maturidi Aqeedah. Now a person may ask, why Ash'ari and Maturidi? Why are they two different Aqeedahs? Simply put, is because Imam Ash'ari was in one part of the world, Imam Maturidi was in a different part of the world. They're in Samarkand, that area, Khurasan side, while Imam Ash'ari was here more in the Arabian Peninsula side. So they had each one had their own people that they were dealing with who had their corrupted beliefs. The Ash'ari and Maturidi Aqeedah are for the most part the same, but they differ in minor issues, things which does not affect a person's Aqeedah at all. For example, can Allah, we're not using the term can, but for example, maybe the kuffar can go to Jannah and Muslims go to Jahannam. It's on matters like this. Or for example, one of the differences is, are people required to believe in Allah without a Nabi being sent to them? Minute furu'at like this is where the Ash'ari and Maturidi Aqeedahs differ. But on the whole, the Aqeedah, what one believes, the other one believes as well. And this is how it has been all the ages, and the ulama throughout the ages accepted them, never a problem. Obviously the Mu'attila, those who negated, who denied the attributes of Allah, they are a different thing. So what happens is, nowadays Salafis, A man, yesterday he was smoking weed, today he calls himself a practicing Muslim. He knows nothing, not one day in his life has he studied anything about the deen. What he knows of the Ash'ari Aqeedah is what he read on some Salafi website. Who the Salafi, he may be a Salafi Sheikh and all, but he again heard about the Ash'ari beliefs from another Salafi, and so it goes on. So nobody, and this is something I have gone through it, and I've seen it many times, and it happened too many times to count on Ummah Forum itself, that the people don't know what is the belief of the Ash'ari. And likewise, on the same token, on the other side of the spectrum as well, you have Ash'aris who would say Salafis hold this and this and this beliefs, while in fact that may not be the case at all. So both have preconceived notions about what the other party believes, and so, you know, they make false statements about one another. But like I say, the majority of the time you only find this happening from Salafis, because they are more vocal than anybody else. And like I say, a man yesterday, he was a smoker of weed, never studied the deen, he calls himself practicing, and the first thing comes out, Ash'aris are deviant. I mean, who are you? You can't even clean yourself in the toilet, but you are already claiming ulama of 1,000 years, the shining stars of Islam, are deviants because you don't have two brain cells to rub together. This is the unfortunate situation that we are facing in today's world. So coming back to where we were speaking about, is that the reason why the Ash'ari and Maatureedee Aqeedah came about was to clarify these points. And one thing I'd like to just touch on this point before moving on a little bit. If people say that Ash'ari and Maatureedee Aqeedah is something which is different, hence it's got a new name, then I will say that Salafi Aqeedah is the newest of the lot, because Salafi Aqeedah, such a name never existed in the past. And if Salafis popped out here now, 200 and something years ago, that's when Salafism appeared on the scene. But prior to that, it never existed. We know Ash'ari, Maatureedee and Athari. So had Salafis been Athari, then they would have called themselves Athari. Why did they need to come along and call themselves Salafi? Simply because they are bringing about a new Aqeedah. So people mustn't come in, rather let me say, Salafis must not come along and claim that the Ash'ari and Maatureedee Aqeedah are bringing something new, hence why they are called by different names, like one person foolishly came to claim. So anyway, the Ash'ari and Maatureedee Aqeedah was just simply to remove the kufr aspects of tajseem from the minds of the people and bring them back onto the Aqeedah of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that Allah is not a human being. Allah does not have a physical form like this, you know, a man with a hand like our hand, a face like our face, and stuff like this here. So to clarify these points, that is what the Ash'ari and Maatureedee Aqeedah is. And they don't deny or negate the Sifa itself. So when, and this is another point which I saw it just the other day itself on Ummah Forum, where a person came and say the Ash'aris deny that Yad means hand, and they say they take its meaning to mean power, which is not the case either. The Ash'aris and Maatureedis, when the Ash'aris and Maatureedis speak on the topic of the like Yad and all these sort of stuff here, then they would say, for example, that Yad, the Yad itself, that much is there, it's in its place, nobody denies that. But here in the context of this particular ayah, it's understood in the meaning of power, or in the context of this sentence, it's used in this meaning of here. Not that Yad means power. Yad means power is a belief of the Mu'tazila, not the belief of the Ash'aris. And this is where the Salafis make this mix up, and they say Ash'aris say Yad means power, which is not the case at all. So anyway, the Ash'ari and Maatureedee Aqeedah has been the Aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah, along with the Athari Aqeedah, all the years. And like I said, Ash'ari, a man is an Ash'ari or a Maatureedee, and he follows the exact Athari Aqeedah, except that where the difference between Athari and Ash'ari Aqeedah comes is from the point of Tafweed, which for the Ash'aris and Maatureedis, they have Tafweedul Kayf wal Ma'na. while for the Athari they only do tafweedul kayf, not ma'na. So that one point is what makes the difference between the Atharis and Ash'aris and Maturidis. So that is how it has been, that is how it has been understood, and that's how it has been throughout the ages. You know, a person who actually reads and who actually knows something and does not take his deen from people who were born yesterday, you actually have to look and wonder that where did all this come from, this animosity, this claiming that Ash'aris and them are deviants and stuff, when, you know, it never existed in the past. It only popped up now, just the other day. Okay, quick question here: can the point of tafweed be repeated? So Ash'ari and Maturidi, the Ash'aris and Maturidis do tafweedul kayf and tafweedul ma'na. They leave the kayfiyah and the ma'na both to Allah, while the Atharis do tafweed of the kayf but not of the ma'na. The howness of the sifa, they leave that to Allah, not the ma'na. So that, just at one point, is where the only difference. So even though the Ash'aris, the tafsili type, who do now the ta'wil and say in this statement over here it's used for this meaning, and this is in fact Aqeedah which comes from the Salaf themselves, and I don't mean Salafis here, I mean the Salaf themselves. You know, for example, Imam al-Bukhari, Salafis themselves also do ta'wil in certain places. For example, kullu shay'in halikun illa wajha. Everybody knows the ayah, kullu shay'in halikun illa wajha. What does Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he say? Illa mulkahu, not illa wajhahu, illa mulkahu. So Imam al-Bukhari, from the Salaf, he made ta'wil of wajh to mean mulk. There you have ta'wil from the Salaf. Then you have, for example, وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. All these various ayat of the Quran. For example, وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. Ask the Salafis, what does it mean? And they will say, بِعِلْمِهِ وَقُدْرَتِهِ, and so on and so forth. They come and then they'll say Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma had said this, that it is وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ, Allah is with you wherever you are, through His knowledge and His sight and hearing and so on and so forth. They say like that, but they don't say, you know, that Allah is physically everywhere. That's not the belief of the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So they accept in this case over here ta'wil. So you say that, okay, bi'ilmihi, bi'sam'ihi, wa basarihi, and so on and so forth. And here, kullu shayin halikun illa wajhahu means illa mulkahu, and in a number of other places like this here, you make ta'wil, and then ta'wil is not a problem. And the reason why these A'imma made ta'wil on, and the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum at least made ta'wil on these things here, is to clarify and to keep the Aqeedah of the people safe. And this is the exact same thing that the Ash'aris and Maturidis did as well. Just now, because the problem where people were faltering was on the other sifat, like yad and waj and all these sort of things. That is where they were faltering, not wa huwa ma'akum, but rather on these points over here. So this is what they focused on, to clarify these points by saying, look, it don't mean this that you are taking it to mean in this tajsimi form, rather understand it in this form over here, that it's used in the context of power, not that yad definitely and only means power, that Allah don't have a yad, but rather it is a synonym for qudra. That has never been the Aqeedah of the Ash'aris and Maturidis, regardless of what ignorant people try and claim and peddle off as being their beliefs. So the differences, you know, in fact, Imam as-Safarini rahimahullah, of the famous Athari Imam, he mentions over there in his kitab that the Ahlus Sunnah, being the Ash'aris, Maturidis, Atharis, Maturidis and Ash'aris. He obviously puts Atharis as being in level number 1, and thereafter in second place comes the Ash'aris and Maturidis, because obviously being an Athari, he feels that if you don't make ta'wil, that is best. And thereafter, for those people who do go into making ta'wil in this manner, they are still part of Ahlus Sunnah, but obviously they're not as good as those who don't make ta'wil at all. So, it's been like this all the years until the Salafis popped out nowadays, and they make so much noise on the topic that for the normal layperson, the normal person who now starts to learn about the deen, if you search online and everything, only things that come up, Ash'aris, deviants, and stuff like this here. So as a result, they are left confused, and they are left believing that Ash'aris and Maturidis are two deviated sects and not actually part of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay, question over here that Allah being physically everywhere, as Sheikh Ayman stated, this belief was rejected by Ash'ari, Maatureedee, Athari, Salafi, everyone. Yes, that's what I mentioned earlier. The concept or this belief that Allah is physically everywhere. When people say, where's Allah? Allah is everywhere. Meaning, bidatihi, physically all over the place, then that has never been not the belief of Ash'aris, Maturidis, Atharis, or even the Salafis also. Nobody have ever held this as being the belief of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Never has it been part of anyone's belief other than deviated groups. So this, in any case, just on the point of everywhere is also a place. So when you say, you say, where did you look? I looked here, I looked there, I looked everywhere. Even if you say everywhere, not using in this context, but everything in existence, meaning that everything which is in existence is something which Allah has created. So again, it may be massive beyond your imagination, but at the end of the day, it's limited. And then you are saying that Allah is limited. So this belief of Allah is everywhere was never part of the beliefs of the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. It's something which came about later on, but was never part of the Ahlus Sunnah beliefs, and is still not part of the Ahlus Sunnah beliefs. Anyhow, we've digressed a lot, and I want to just get to the kitab as well, because there's a couple of points as we do it. The kitab is short, but there's certain points that needs to be touched on. So the kitab is Aqeedatul Murshidah. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So the kitab says, اعلم أرشدنا الله وإياك أنه يجب على كل مكلف أن يعلم أن الله عز وجل واحد في ملكه. He says that, no, may Allah guide you and us that into knowing that it is obligatory upon every mukallaf, meaning every person who is baligh, aqil, and a person who is sane and he has reached the age of puberty. أَيَّعْلَمَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ وَاحِدٌ فِي مُلْكِهِ, that Allah Azza wa Jal is alone in His dominion. Now, mukallaf is normally used for baligh, aqil, balaghatu da'wat al-Islam, a person who is baligh, a person who is sane, and the message of Islam has reached him as well. Now, like I mentioned earlier, one of the points of difference between Ash'aris and Maturidis is whether a person, if the message of Islam had reached him or not, is he still required to believe in Allah or not. That's one of the points of difference. But anyhow, so let's just take mukallaf on the point here that everyone who's baligh and aqil, it's necessary, it's obligatory upon him, because every kafir, it's also obligatory upon him to know, because the Muslims then must take the message to them so that they can hold these beliefs, which is what? That Allah Azza wa Jal is one. He is alone in His dominion. There is nobody who has any say or any power or any partner or anything with Him. خلق العالم بأسره العلوية والسفلية والعرش والكرسي والسماوات والأرض وما فيهما وما بينهما. That Allah has created the universe, the بأسره, in its entirety, العلوية والسفلية, whatever is high and above and whatever is low and below, everything. والعرش والكرسي, Allah created the arsh, Allah created the kursi, Allah created the heavens, and Allah created the earth. Allah created whatever is within the heavens and the earth, and Allah created whatever is between the heavens and the earth. جميع الخلائق مقهورون بقدرته, that all of creation is subjugated by Allah's power. لا تتحرك ذرة إلا بإذنه, that not an atom moves except with the permission of Allah. ليس معه مدبر في الخلق ولا شريك في الملك. Allah has no designer, there's no designer with Allah in creation. Like someone to say, make the grass green and the sea blue and stuff like that. There was no designer with Allah. وَلَا شَرِيكٌ فِي الْمُلْكِ. No, does Allah have any partner in His kingdom, in His dominion? حَيٌّ قَيُّومٌ. Allah is alive and eternal, ever lasting. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. That Allah is not does not sleep, nor does Allah slumber. Famous ayah from Ayatul Kursi. So Allah is Hayy. Allah is attributed with life, always been alive, always will be alive, and will never come to an end. And the Qayyum, eternal, everlasting, will never come to an end. Alimul Ghaibi wa Shahada. Allah is has knowledge of what is hidden and what it is whatever is known and unknown, whatever is seen and not seen. So what here is Alimul Ghaib? What is the unseen? Here when we talk about Ilmul Ghaib, we mean Ghaib in relation to us, because obviously nothing is hidden from Allah. So when we talk about Alimul Ghaibi wa Shahada, then it means that Allah knows all of that which we don't know and we can't see, and Allah knows all of that which we can see as well. So in other words, Allah knows every single thing that there is to know. لا يخفى عليه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء. That there is nothing in the heavens or the earth which is hidden from Allah. ويعلم ما في البر والبحر وما تسقط من ورقة إلا يعلمها ولا حبة في ظلمات الأرض ولا رطب ولا يابس إلا في كتاب مبين. And Allah knows whatever is in the sea and whatever is on land. وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا. Not a leaf falls but that Allah knows of it. وَلَا حَبَّةٍ في ظلمات الأرض. There is no seed in the darkness of the earth. ولا رطب ولا يابس. Not anything wet, no anything dry. إلا في كتاب مبين. But that it is in this كتاب مبين. And the كتاب مبين, as we know, is the لوح محفوظ, the protected tablet wherein everything is enumerated and counted and known and written down on. Okay, then he says here, أحاط بكل شيء علما. That Allah encompasses everything with His knowledge. Now all of this points over here, I posted the entire text of this on the forum in that particular thread. So if you're following it from there, you will see how it is written. But anyhow, all of these points, the whole last few sentences from لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم, all of this are portions of ayat. أحاط بكل شيء علما. That Allah encompasses everything in His knowledge is an ayah of the Quran. وأحصى كل شيء عددا. And another ayah of the Quran, that وأحصى كل شيء عددا, that Allah knows the count of every single thing. Now when we talk about knowing the count of every single thing over here, we're not talking about there's one beach or two beaches, 3 beaches, 4 beaches. We're not talking about that. We're talking here, okay, beyond even this point, that you see 1-2 grains of sand. How much grains of sand makes up? If you take a handful of sand, you'll spend days to count the amount of grains that are just in one handful of sand. Forget about counting the one beach. Forget about counting all the sand in the world. And we're not even just restricting it to sand. It's every single thing. It's every single atom and micro atom, whatever there is in existence. Allah knows the exact count of every single last thing. فَعَالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. That Allah does whatever He wants. And that's where the last of the ayat that he is quoting comes to an end. Now he moves on further as part of the beliefs. قَادِرٌ عَلَى مَا يَشَاءُ. Allah is all powerful upon whatever He wishes to do. لَهُ الْمُلْكُ وَلَهُ الْغِنَى. For Him belongs the dominion and He is independent of everything and everyone. وَلَهُ الْعِزُّ وَالْبَقَاءُ. And to Allah belongs all honor and He is everlasting. وَلَهُ الْحُكْمُ وَالْقَضَاءُ. And for Allah belongs all rule and all judgment belongs to Allah. وَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. And to Allah belongs the most beautiful names. لَا دَافِعَ لِمَا قَضَى. That there is no one to repel that which He has ordained. وَلَا مَانِعَ لِمَا أَعْطَى. Nor is there anyone to prevent that which He has given. يَفْعَلُ فِي مُلْكِهِ مَا يُرِيدُ. He does in His dominion as He wishes. وَيَحْكُمُ فِي خَلْقِهِ بِمَا يَشَاءُ. And He rules and judges His creation amongst them and over them as He deems fit. لَا يَرْجُو ثَوَابًا وَلَا يَخَافُ عِقَابًا. That Allah does not hope for reward from anyone, nor does Allah fear retribution from anyone. Nobody can do anything to Allah. لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ حَقٌّ يُلْزِمُهُ وَلَا عَلَيْهِ حُكْمٌ. That there is no one has any rights over Allah to obligate and force Allah to do things. وَلَا عَلَيْهِ حُكْمٌ. Nor does anyone make any rules which you apply this law, you put this ruling over Allah that Allah must now adhere to the laws you place down. وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. Allah is exalted above all of this. Nobody puts any laws or any judgments or any rulings and put anything over Allah. وَكُلُّ نِعْمَةٍ مِّنْهُ فَضْلٌ. Every bounty from Allah, any bounty and benefit which Allah gives you, it is from the fadl, it's from the grace of Allah. وَكُلُّ نِقْمَةٍ مِّنْهُ عَدْلٌ. And whatever punishment Allah metes out to the people, then that is from the justice of Allah. So when Allah gives you something, it's not because you deserve it, but it's because it is from the grace of Allah. And that's also just digressing from the kitab, where many people fall short in this regard here is, many people feel, I don't drink, I don't commit zina, it's as though Allah owes me. وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. And people are like this. It's like, I deserve this, I deserve to have a good life. I mean, I don't do this, I don't do that, I perform my salah, why can that man have it and not me? Things like this. So the fact that you breathe alone, the day a person, you get sick, you realize these sort of things like this here, when you need a machine to help you to breathe, and your entire life Allah gave you the ability to breathe and never charged you a cent, and then if you have to use the machine, your money runs out in a couple of days. Basic things like this. So it is a favor that Allah gives you all of your bodily functions, to see, to hear, to smell, to taste, to eat, all of this here. One problem, one illness, you constipated, you are sick, you can't see, this problem, you can't hear, all of these things. So many bounties Allah give a person, which more than makes up for any good deed and things that a person does. So whatever bounties Allah gives you, it is from the favor of Allah. And likewise, وَكُلُّ نِقْمَةٍ مِّنْهُ عَدْلٌ. That Allah never transgresses upon anyone. Allah never harms a person. Rather, if Allah punishes you, it is because you are deserving of much worse, but rather it is from the justice of Allah that He only metes out such a bit of punishment to you. Again, he quotes an ayah of the Quran, لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. That Allah will not be questioned about what He does, but rather it is the people, they are the ones who will be questioned. He moves on further now. This was just one ayah, so he moves on again as part of the kitab. موجود قبل الخلق. That Allah existed before creation. ليس له قبل ولا بعد ولا فوق ولا تحت ولا يمين ولا شمال ولا أمام ولا خلف. Okay, I'll just read until this point here, then I want to expound a little bit on this topic. So he says here that Allah was existing before creation. ليس له قبل ولا بعد. There is no before nor any after in regards to Allah. ولا فوق ولا تحت. No any above, below, right, left, front, back. None of this applies to Allah. Now just on that point, I just want to stop and clarify what exactly is he saying over here. Here he's saying that Allah exists without a place. Now again, Salafis jump and throw their arms in the sky saying this is not the belief of the Salaf, it's not the belief of the Ahlul Sunnah, while in fact this is the belief of the Ahlul Sunnah and always has been the belief of the Ahlul Sunnah. The Salaf never attributed Jiha and Makan, a direction and a place, to Allah. Never. This has never been the belief of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. It stems from their ignorance of the ayah Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arshi istawa, and they take that add their own, like I said, they add their own spin onto it, and then they claim that this is what the Salaf believed, while in fact the Salaf never believed it. Imam Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah in his kitab Daf'u Shubhat al-Tashbih, he mentions there that Imam Ahmad rahimahullah never attributed direction to Allah. You know, the statements of the ulama are so much and so vast, you just have to go through the kitabs to see all of it. But anyway, on this very point over here, hadith of Bukhari, which I quoted as well on the forum, which it says that كان الله ولم يكن شيء غيره, that Allah existed and nothing besides Him existed. ولم يكن شيء غيره. In another riwayah, ولم يكن شيء معه, nothing existed with Allah. And shay, anybody who knows Arabic knows that shay, this is a word which is nakira, wa nakiratu tufidul umum. It is a word which encompasses every single thing. So time, place, all of this are creations of Allah. Because if you say time and place always existed, then you are essentially saying that there are three partners. Then you believe in a trinity, that Allah was existing, time was existing, you know, it's now a new creation, and place was also existing. Like three gods, except those two, they don't do anything. They're just there. So Allah existed, there was no time, there was no place. Allah created time, Allah created place, Allah created everything. So that's point number one. From this hadith of Bukhari, that كان الله ولم يكن شيء غيره, Allah existed and nothing at all existed besides Him. So from a hadith perspective, already authentic hadith, you know that time and place was existing afterwards, and Allah existed before time and place came into effect. Then the next point over here, where he says no above, no below, no right, no left, no front, no back. I'm just going to give mention. Everybody knows the famous kitab Al-Aqeedatul Tahawiyya of Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah. It's used as the unanimous guidebook of the beliefs of the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and in there Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah, he says that لا تحويه الجهاد الست كسائر المبتدعات, that Allah is not contained in the six directions like the rest of created matter. So Imam al-Tahawi, what are al-jihad to sit, the six directions, which is here, above, below, left, right, front, back. Those are six directions. So same like is mentioned over here, it's the exact same thing which Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah mentions. But there's no need to stop there and take let's say you don't want to take it what Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah says. Maybe you feel you got your own spin onto it and you say that Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah was also wrong. Then we can go to Sahih Muslim and what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said as part of a bit of a lengthy hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is in the chapter of dua, the portion of the dua. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Allahumma anta al-awwalu falaysa qablaka shay, that oh Allah, you are al-awwal and there was فليس قبلك شيء, and there existed nothing before you. وأنت الآخر فليس بعدك شيء, and you are al-akhir and there is nothing after you. وأنت الظاهر فليس فوقك شيء, and you are al-zahir and there is nothing above you. وأنت الباطن فليس دونك شيء, and you are al-batin and there is nothing below you. So here Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in al-awwal wal-akhir, before and after, hereby negate the point of time, that Allah existed before time, and with the point of al-zahir wal-batin, the fawq and duna, whatever is above and below. By this Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also negates the existence of place. So time and place, both in one hadith of Sahih Muslim, are being negated. Now somehow these hadith are all just like brushed under the carpet, hidden away, and we must just all just accept as though it is the gospel truth that the Salaf believed and put Allah in a direction when that was never the case. So, you know, the Aqeedah of the Ahlus Sunnah, when you say Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa, wa huwa ma'akum aynama kuntum, wa nahnu aqrabu ilayhi min hablil warid, all of these ayat, none of them put Allah and restrict Allah in a place. You are ready to make ta'wil because you feel Allah is sitting on the arsh, as some people make that claim. But you are ready to believe that. But if somebody come along and say Allah is physically everywhere, then you quick to say no, that ayah don't mean wa ma'akum aynama kuntum. You're ready to make ta'wil away from the zahir of the ayah, the apparent meaning that وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ, and he is with you wherever you are. You quick to make ta'wil and turn it away from the zahir to إِلَى مَعْنًا يَلِيقُ بِهِ, as to use the Ash'ari term, turning it away from the zahir to a meaning which is befitting for it, because the belief is not that Allah is physically everywhere. So you're willing to turn the meaning away from the zahir, which implies that Allah is physically everywhere, because how do you restrict and say no, not physically, but rather it's bi-ilm and sama' and basar and stuff like this? You are restricting the ayah, which is am, you are making it khas. Something which is unrestricted, you are putting restrictions on it. So you are really willing to do that, but when it comes to Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa, then you feel no, that that means Allah is in a direction, Allah is contained in a place. When did the Salaf ever make these statements? When they said Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa, they left it at that. Everybody knows the statement when the man came that to Imam Malik rahimahullah, and he says Kayfa istawa, that we know Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa, but how was this istawa? Then Imam Malik said that istawa is ma'loom, the kayf of it is majhul, iman in it is wajib, and asking about is bid'ah, and Imam Malik had the man kicked out. So the Salaf never delved and added all these extra things that the Salafis put on now as being a necessary part of it, as though this is the belief of the Salaf, when in reality the Salaf never made these statements that they are attributing and making as though it is part of the belief of the Salaf. Anyhow, now we move on further. He says that وَلَا كُلٌّ وَلَا بَعْضٌ, there is no whole or part of Allah. And this here again is now a rejection of for example, the Baralvis and those people who feel that the Christians, a portion of God, a part of Allah was used to like some extreme Baralvis. They believe that a portion of Allah was used now to make to create Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have beliefs of kufr of this nature. So this kul and ba'd, when you all these type of terms like this here, it is not used for Allah at all. So wala kullun wala ba'd, we don't attribute Allah with a whole, that's the whole of Allah, that's a part of Allah. These type of terms itself, the term itself is rejected. We don't accept the usage or that a person can use such a term at all. Then he goes, وَلَا يُقَالُ مَتَى كَانَ وَلَا أَيْنَ كَانَ وَلَا كَيْفَ كَانَ وَلَا مَكَانَ. Okay, before we go to that point, he says, it's not said about Allah that مَتَى كَانَ, that when, like مَتَى كَانَ, when did Allah come into existence? All of these things like this. When, again, comes to do with time, we know we just passed by the point of time right now. وَلَا أَيْنَ كَانَ, that where was Allah? And this whole point again of the where, it was touched on a little bit now, but Salafis like again to touch on this point here. Ayn Allah, where is Allah? Just to touch on that hadith al-Jariyah, you can speak for about a day on that one topic, since there's around about 10-15 different riwayas for one incident. Some mentions fi sama, some don't mention any reply at all. Some mention she simply pointed. Some say atashhadina la ilaha illallah, do you believe in Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And she said na'am, without mentioning about where or anything of the sort. So you have to get into a hadith discussion, and a person needs to at least have knowledge of hadith to understand that. But anyhow, like I said, that's a topic you can certainly speak for an entire day on, so I'm not going to get bogged down in all of that. But anyhow, wow. So here, where, when, and how. We just passed by the statement of Imam Malik where he said that that's the whole point of kayf, you leave the kayf to Allah. We don't say how is the sifa of Allah. This whole how don't exist, we throw it away. Allah knows the how, we don't know, we don't delve into it. So we don't attribute when, where or how to Allah. Then here he says, Kana wala makan. Allah existed and there was no place. Which is the same thing which I said earlier in the hadith, Kana Allahu walam yakun shay'un ghayruhu, that Allah existed and there was nothing besides Him. The hadith of Bukhari. Yeah, it's the same thing. Makan is included in all of those things which was non-existent until Allah brought it into existence. Then he goes on and he says, Kawwan al-akwan, that Allah fashioned the creation. وَدَبَّرَ الزَّمَانِ, and organized and set out the time. You know, you want to call it 24 hours in a day, the 12 months in a year, everything like this. The existence of time, the existence of place, the existence of everything, Allah brought it into existence. So Allah created and fashioned the whole of creation. Allah laid out and organized the time, how it has been run. And that is, we know the hadith that since the day Allah created the universe, there's been 12 months, as is mentioned in the hadith. The hadith about the Ashhurul Hurum, the sacred months, Thalathun Mutawaliyat, that hadith which says that there are three of the months are consecutive, and وَرَجَبُ مُضَرَ الَّذِي بَيْنَ جُمَادَى وَشَعْبَانَ, that hadith. So that hadith mentions that from the day Allah created the universe, Allah had set out there being 12 months. So this is part of what Dabbar al-Zaman. Allah laid out how many hours in a day and how many months in a year, all of this sort of stuff. Then he says, لا يتقيد بالزمان ولا يتخصص بالمكان, that Allah is not bound by time, nor is Allah restricted in a place. And this is the crux of what was spoken about earlier, that Allah is not restricted by place. There's nothing philosophical about it. There's nothing which is taken from mythology. There's nothing which is taken from kuffar in this. This is just that Allah existed before these things. Allah is not restricted by Allah's own creation. Yeah, you say Allah existed without time and without place. Then Allah created time and place, and then Allah got restricted, and Allah's power was then limited by the own creation which Allah created. This is not the belief of Ahlul Sunnah. That's why Allah is not bound by time, nor is Allah restricted in place. وَلَا يَشْغَلُهُ شَأْنٌ عَنْ شَأْنٍ, and one method does not distract Allah from another. You know, if we call it today multitasking. Some people can't multitask. You can't do two things at once. Here, Allah is not distracted from, you know, okay, look, there's an earthquake taking place over there. I forget about what's happening around the corner. Allah is not like that. The kuffar in mythology and all of them, their gods are such that you don't even know what's happening around the corner. But Allah knows everything that has happened, will happen, and everything of the sort. And Allah is never distracted. Allah sees everything all at the same time without there being any change. So nothing distracts Allah from, you know, like seeing person A. So I'm seeing to person A, I can't see to you at the same time. Nothing of the sort. Allah is never distracted from anything. Then he says, وَلَا يَلْحَقُهُ وَهْمٌ, that a person's imagination cannot reach Allah. وَلَا يَكْتَنِفُهُ عَقْلٌ, nor can a person's intelligence encompass Allah. وَلَا يَتَخَصَّصُ بِالذَّهْنِ, nor can Allah be encompassed in a person's mind. وَلَا يَتَمَثَّلُ فِي النَّفْسِ, nor can Allah be envisaged in a person's mind, in a person's soul. وَلَا يُتَصَوَّرُ فِي الْوَهْمِ, nor can Allah be conceived in a person's imagination. وَلَا يَتَكَيَّفُ فِي الْعَقْلِ, nor can a howness of Allah be formed in a person's mind. وَلَا تَلْحَقُهُ الْأَوْهَامُ وَالْأَفْكَارِ, that a person's thoughts and imaginations cannot reach Allah. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ, there is nothing like unto Him, and He is the all-hearing, all-seeing. Now all of this last points is just using the different words, that a person's imaginations and your aql and your dhahan and your nafs and your wahm, all of this, your afkar, everything, you cannot comprehend and imagine how Allah is. That is why one of the Salaf used to say that, one of the scholars of the past, he said that one statement now that مهما تصورت ببالك فالله بخلاف ذلك, that whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is not like that. So when you have sometimes, and this is something, if it happens to come, you should immediately shut down such thoughts and throw it away. So sometimes, for example, maybe you read like for example that the yad of Allah, for example, and then without your intention an image of a hand comes in, like our hand comes in your mind, then immediately you should, that is like from shaitan putting thoughts in your mind, you should shut down that thought and put him away. If you encourage and you spend time, how exactly is this yad that Allah speaks about? Is it like a human hand? Is it like an animal paw? What exactly? This year is all from shaitan. So whatever comes into your mind, intentionally or unintentionally, all of this, it's not Allah, and Allah is unlike any of that. So throw those thoughts away when they appear in your mind. And then he quotes the ayah, which is the muhkam. It is the all-encompassing of all the sifat of Allah, is this one, laysa kamithlihi shay'un wa huwa as-sami'ul basir, that there is nothing like unto Allah, there is nothing like Allah. So when Allah uses the term wajh, and Allah uses the term saq, and Allah uses the term yad, and all these other terms like this here, it's not like the rest of the creation that now a man has a yad, Allah has a yad, a man has a face, Allah has a face. It's not used in this sense at all. So Allah, the minute you start imagining Allah as being similar to the creation, then you know that you've gone off the path, because Allah is not like anything, and there is nothing like unto Allah. And that there is the end of the kitab known as Aqeedatul Murshidah. Imam As-Subki, Tajuddin As-Subki rahimahullah, he commenting on this, he had said this, هذا آخر العقيدة وليس فيها ما ينكره سني. This is the end of the Aqeedah, and there's nothing contained within this which a Sunni rejects. Now, you can be a foolish person and say that it's an Ash'ari advocating an Ash'ari book, so it serves no purpose. But the fact of the matter is, there we go, we've done the kitab now. What part of what is mentioned over here contradicts the Aqeedah of the Ahlul Sunnah? Yes, it may contradict your own home-baked beliefs, which has no basis from the kitabs of the Salaf. Yes, if you're saying that, then yes, definitely you would have a problem with it. But as far as what is mentioned over here, from all these various statements and the ayat and stuff which he has used over here, this is the beliefs of the Ahlul Sunnah in an abridged form. There are points which are beyond this, but if a person restricts himself just to this, and he understands this, and he does not find the need to delve further, then that is sufficient for him. Like I said, for the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, everything was clear. They didn't need to delve into all of this because they understood these things naturally. It's when people fell off the wagon that they started having all sorts of weird thoughts, and then it became necessary to clarify things for them. So people like to get bogged down in debates amongst what does this year and yad, how exactly does it work, what is there's absolutely no need to delve into things further than what is mentioned over here. So when it comes our Aqeedah as Ahlul Sunnah, we follow the Aqeedah of the Salaf. Myself, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah is from the Salaf. We follow the Aqeedah of the Salaf, not the Aqeedah of the Salafis. And that is, like I say, what makes all the difference. Either you follow the Aqeedah of the Salaf, or you follow the Aqeedah of the Salafis. If it was one and the same thing, it would not be having two different names. It's because they have differences. And this is something, Imam Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah, on many points he spoke against the aspects of tajsim and tashbih and stuff like this here, and explain that. In fact, I think in his kitab Sayd al-Khatir, or one of his other kitabs, where he speaks on the topic that if you stopped where the Salaf stopped, then you would be following the Salaf. But instead, what's happening here, you are not stopping where the Salaf stopped in relation to the Sifat. Rather, you put your own understandings onto it. So you piggybacking on those statements of the Salaf, and then you claiming it to be the Aqeedah of the Salaf, while the reality is that these statements, or rather this statements that you come out with and attribute to them, was never part of their belief at all. So you're not going to find the Salaf attributing and saying that Allah is physically in a place sitting on the arsh and stuff like this here. You're not going to find that amongst the Salaf, but you'll find that Salafis, certain of them, many, perhaps even most of them, they will, ignorant ones at least, they will come and try and justify and make it seem as though the Ahlul Sunnah, the Salaf, held the belief that Allah is restricted and located in a physical place, when the reality is that the Salaf never held this belief. Now, let's put the Salaf aside for 1 second. Let's just put the Salaf to one side and we look at the matter over here. If they come and argue and say, look, we don't have a statement from the Salaf to say yay or nay. We don't have either way about it. So they say, you came out here with Greek logic and all these sort of things here. Then I say, how is it Greek logic when you had the hadith over here which mentions nothing above you, nothing below you? You have the statement of, like I said, you have Imam al-Tahawi saying none of the 6 directions. So why are you interpreting that away and brushing that under the carpet to support a belief which nobody accepts, which nobody has expounded and said that this is the belief, that Allah is physically in a place like this here, in that particular direction over there? Why are you bringing that belief about and touting it as being Ahlul Sunnah beliefs when nobody has done it other than something which popped about now a couple of years ago? So unfortunately, it's something which Ummah Forum is full of, and so to other forums around the internet. People they speak because they heard it from, or read it on some website, not having knowledge, not having studied, not understanding how the things go, but it's just a matter of, I heard that Ash'aris are deviants, so Ash'aris are deviants. I heard that it is like this, so therefore it is like that. But the deen does not work like that. The Aqeedah of the Ash'aris and the Maatureedees has always been the Aqeedah of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah throughout the ages, and that is how it will always be throughout the ages. And if a person differs, and you have now an Ash'ari and he negates one of the Sifat of Allah, that's a different story. Then he ceases to be an Ash'ari. Just like if a Salafi comes along and he now gives Allah a body and stuff like this, then the Salafis would say such a person ceases to be a Salafi. They'd call him a Mujassimi. So in a like manner, if you find an Ash'ari who oversteps the mark, then that is him overstepping the mark, and it is not the beliefs of the Ash'ariyah or Maturidiyah, and likewise vice versa as well. So we'll stop on this point here, inshallah. It's a simple kitab, it's straightforward, it's abridged, it's short, it's to the point, it touches on some of the important points and matters, and that is sufficient for Aqeedah, for a beginner, or for the normal man in the street. You don't need to get into all the various furu'at and all those sort of stuff like that there, because again, even what is mentioned in this kitab over here is expounded a little bit beyond what is mentioned in the Quran. Takes from Quran, Hadith and Aqeedah of the Salaf to come to the conclusion of this kitab over here. But Aqeedah in the Quran is limited. You saw the ayat that he quoted over there. Aqeedah is limited also in the Hadith, like those few which I had quoted. And then you have the books and statements of the Salaf and things which is put together, filtered out, and you have an abridged form which is derived from those 3 sources and leaves you with this conclusion over here. Okay, so with that being that, inshallah, we will be stopping on this point here. This class was only just being done it was originally just supposed to be a recitation with a brief translation and touching on points where necessary of the kitab itself, but somehow we ended up going on for an hour. So therefore, with that being that, we will stop on this point inshallah, and next time, if need be, we can do another book of Aqeedah itself. Like I said in the past, we had done the entire Al-Aqeedatul Tahawiyah from cover to cover, but like I said, the more things change, the more things stay the same. People came and they went, new ones come, and the same old arguments recycle itself year in, year out, day in and day out, time and again. And the more you do the class, it's like the next one comes along and he didn't know about it, he don't know about it, he's not interested in learning about it, and so things get rehashed over and over and over and over again. So anyhow, inshallah, in the future, if we do any other kitabs or any other classes and things, we can just set a time and do it. But for now, we'll stop on this point here, inshallah. Until next time, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.